If you want to know what happened to the people who disappeared, quote unquote, the Anasazi, watch this video. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shanclen Shadow Productions. So I mentioned on my last video about some topics when I was talking about the spiritual world, and I brought up the people of the Anasazi, and a lot of people in the comments were saying that, hey, they want to hear more about these, and especially like if you live in the southwest area or in Arizona, you know, you see like a lot of these like abandoned buildings that they say lived with the Anasazi and the people who disappeared. So I'm gonna shed some light on at least stories that I was told in my perspective. Now there's a lot of stories about these beings that are out there and everything, but they kind of all have a common theme to them. But I will tell you the story on how I was told. So let me take you way back, even before humans were even on this earth, to the creation of this world. Now when this world was being created, the creator and his spirits were, in a sense, molding the human people to be able to become the caretakers of this planet, to be able to become the caretakers of this world. And how I mentioned before in my spiritual lessons or spiritual world video, when is for us the net people, when he lined all the clans up, he was giving them all different tasks of what they should do when they get on this world. Certain characteristics, you know, he was given certain songs, he was given certain ceremonies. Okay, you have to do this while you're on the world. You have to take care of this part of the land. Take care of this herb that's right here. So as he was going down the line, there was one group, one band that was at the very end. They got a little too excited, I guess you can say. So they themselves, before they were given the rules and regulations of what living is, the do's and the don'ts and the natural laws of the world, those beings, those people left the spiritual world and came to this earth for everybody else. So they were here, they started to be able to grow in population, but as they were kind of growing in population, they didn't know the ways of doing good, of not, in a sense, like kind of common sense wasn't really a thing. They started doing a lot of evil things. They started doing practicing evil witchcraft and all these evil things and dark ways, and you know, a lot of crazy things. Like they were having like incest, they were doing, you know, like all these crazy animal things. You know, it was just a lot of things that, you know, as a human being you're not supposed to do. And when it comes to that, there's a lot of, like how I said, the natural laws. You just don't do these things. And they were starting to grow in population, and their civilization was kind of really starting to grow out there. So the creator was looking down at them, gave them a bunch of chances. It's like, okay, so these guys are just running around destroying everything and just destroying our creation. So they attempted to try to contact them to try to teach them these ways, but they were too stuck in their ways, and the civilization grew too much to where the creator just said, that's enough. They need to go. So when it came to their end, I guess I could relate it to a lot of biblical catastrophes that happen, like floods or, you know, earthquakes, tornadoes, or just radical storms like that. But for us, the creator sent the thunder beings after them. Now, a thunder being is a being that is pretty self-explanatory. It's a being that lives in the clouds and the thunderstorms and everything, and they're the ones that kind of look over rains and storms and all that. So the creator sent out his thunder beings to pretty much extinguish all of the Anasazi people. So that's why a lot of people were saying, like, where'd they go? Did they disappear, or would they just disappeared off the face of the earth? You know, they would have a lot of their homes that they had were just, in a sense, just left there. And a lot of their potteries and all these other different things were just left there. So that's where when the thunder beings came, they chased them out of their homes and they just hit them with lightning bolts, and they got rid of all of them because they were going down that dark path. And that's the story. Like I said before, there's a bunch of stories of how, you know, these guys came to be, but the overall theme was the Anasazi people weren't good. They had a lot of evil in their hearts and in their minds. So when it comes to modern day and your interactions with the Anasazi people, you have to be careful, because when they left, they had all their evil energy, all their evil ceremonies inside of their homes. They had all that evil energy inside of their pottery. Now, I mentioned this before, is if you're on the reservations and you find broken pottery, just leave it alone. Just because it could be some from the tribe that's there locally, but it could also be from that tribe of the Anasazi, of the people that disappeared. Now, I know in the Navajo Nation, there's a couple places around, even at my relatives' places, they have some old Anasazi locations to where there's a bunch of broken pottery. So my grandparents and all of them just told us just stay clear away from that area. And it's because that pottery, in a sense, soaked up all that evil energy. And even when we used to do ceremonies, I used to go help my brother. There was a lot of people that would go to these places and they would say, you know, they feel at home in these old abandoned locations, and they would take a piece of pottery or something like that. And it's just like, no, don't go in those places. And then they started having all these things start messing with them and everything like that. And so that's where it gets harder as far as for trying to get rid of these beings, because when I mentioned before is doing these ceremonies and doing everything to kind of get rid of these beings, you have to understand of how old those ceremonies are, when were they created and everything. So in a sense, like if you were to use like a newer religion or anything on them, it's not going to work. So if you were to say you go to a homeowner's place and there's some Anasazi spirits inside of there, we've done this a couple times, and we go there and then we find out it's an Anasazi spirit. And what makes Anasazi spirits so hard to kind of get rid of is because during their dark practices and everything, they learned how to phase in between the physical, spiritual, and even beyond a step further than the spiritual world. So that's where it's very kind of hard to kind of catch these guys, because they go, we would ask our spirits to help to try to find them, but they could even see them themselves. They would kind of phase in and out of their reality as well. So I guess you can consider them the ghosts of ghosts, but there's also other beings that could do that out there too. I'll probably cover that probably in the next video. Phantoms, they could do that too. But because that they were here before all these other ceremonies that were founded originally, those ceremonies don't have jurisdiction over those Anasazi spirits, because they have claim over to the land before those ceremonies were even made. So trying to tell them to leave is not going to be an easy thing. So I remember we were doing a ceremony down in Sedona, Arizona, to where somebody went into an old Anasazi house and everything. They took up some pottery and brought it back. And so while we were there, I remember just feeling like the earth itself was decaying my joints. It felt so weird. It felt like, if I could imagine it, it was a gravitational pull to the ground, but then it was like seeping energy out of my joints, if that makes sense. And we were sitting there and we were doing the ceremony, and we would hear like footsteps come up. That before the footsteps actually came, the homeowners had some dogs, and I was sitting there. Then when I started feeling that, I said, "Ade," that means they're coming. Someone's coming. And my brother said, "Oh," and the dog started barking down the hallway. And so that's when we knew that Anasazi spirit was coming. So when you're dealing with the Anasazi spirits, you always try to, because you, in a sense, you can't really get rid of them. You have to try to bargain with them. And with the bargaining ended up didn't working, because they said, we have claim over this land before this human was even here. This person moved here on our lands, and we have claim over their house. Yeah, and then so that's where a lot of times where you have like a lot of angry spirits, you have to try to make that communication, amend those bonds of hatred against each other. So, but these guys are really old and that didn't work. So, since you can't really, get rid of them as far as for bargaining, using a ceremony, or even trying to do combat with them spiritually, you can't do that because then you can't even try to, it's hard to try to see them. So, there was an old ceremony that the really, really old ceremony that we used. In a sense, you use that ceremony to be able to entomb the spirit and put it way, way, way deep underground. I won't go into detail too much about it, but we in a sense got that box and we put it in the ground, and we were able to put that spirit to sleep. And in a sense, if you're gonna be doing that, that's honestly the only case that you have to be able to do to be able to get rid of those Anasazi spirits. So that's one of those things why I say I don't try to mess with Anasazi spirits, because they're really old, and you have to be a very, very skilled medicinal person to be able to do that. I only know of my brother and like maybe like one other person, or 3 other people in the Navajo Nation who could possibly do it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're out in the reservation, you go to like these old cliff dwellings or anything like that, don't take any pottery with you. Give an offering and try to leave peacefully. Don't wander off and go into places you're not supposed to go. Now, am I saying that every single cliff dwelling is Anasazi territory? No, probably not. But there are some that are out there, and there are some broken potteries out there. So just be worried, just be careful. I would understand if like a museum took some of it or whatever, but just try to leave it, y'all. It's broken pottery. You can get new ones over at the flea markets on the reservations. So that's in a sense why I always say, just be careful when you're around Anasazi spirits and everything, because they're very powerful, very old, and yeah, just don't mess with them, everybody. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up my story I have with the Anasazi people. And I know there's a lot of stories out there. You'll probably see people in the comments, my grandpa told me it was a different story or something like that. Yeah, this is just how I was told it, and makes a lot of sense toward me because, they didn't disappear. They were killed off. So yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much to all the members who joined up. If you guys haven't yet, I created a membership program here at Shanclen Shadow Productions. And I created that membership program to be able to help me fund all my trips and everything that I'm trying to do for the channel, to be able to go to these tribes and just hear their stories and talk about like their paranormal stuff and all their messages that they want to send out to the people in the world. So kind of having those collaborations, making movies, and just upgrading my content. There's a lot of stuff I really want to do. And if you join up in a membership, I believe we have 3 tiers. So you can choose any tier that you want. You can cancel anytime you want to as well. So thank you guys so much for supporting me. To all the members who already subscribed, thank you guys so much for all that. And yeah, so go ahead and go check that out. If you can't, totally understandable. Economy sucks right now. But every little bit helps for me to be able to go out and travel and everything, because electricity ain't free for my car, and food and some place to stay. And sometimes you go to these tribes, and to even talk to them, you got to give them an offering, whether it be monetary or jewelry, and I don't have a lot of jewelry. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to be trying to do a live stream maybe Thursday or Friday, so stay tuned for that. I'll be posting on my social media, so go check out official Shanclen SSP on Instagram and on Facebook and TikTok as well. So yeah, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm going it. I'm like a day late, so sorry everyone. So yeah, just welcome. Audio clip. Oh damn, it's good. Good coffee. Don't be fucking around with Anasazi. You don't do that. You just don't. fuck around and find out. It's not fun.